people, when they see me, it's, oh, you're always smiling. They don't realize when they find out my health conditions, and they think, oh, how are you still standing? So I got diagnosed initially with a balance disorder many years ago. And when I went to the physiotherapy that I was referred for, it was a shocking situation for me because I saw more elderly people. And I went to the park when I went to pick up my son, and I actually cried, feeling at my age having a disability, a disability at the age of 30. And then following that, many years followed, and I started having mental health conditions as well. I was diagnosed, and it's comorbid mental health conditions, which includes OCD, panic attacks, anxiety and depression, and many more. And that as well took me through a journey because it started at a time that I was made homeless because the landlord wasn't paying the rent, and then we were made homeless by the bank. So it's just, that triggered a lot of my mental health conditions and some trauma from my past and childhood as well. It just more and more things started to creep up. And I had menorrhagia, went for surgery. The third surgery, I went into an anaphylactic shock and ended up in ICU, which at the time because my lungs collapsed. So that was another thing I had to live with, having a rib cage that is now higher on one side than the other. And the shocking thing was my poor mom was with me at the time. It was meant to be a routine surgery, first on the list because it was the same hospital where I worked. And they thought, yeah, you'll be gone very quickly by one. And that's just because the doctor has to see you. So that on its own was really a difficult journey for me, the realization that I could have died. And my mom said as well, you could have died. Be careful now. Just make sure you don't let anything stress you out. And I am currently a project manager in the NHS and Barts Health NHS Trust. And I volunteer as the Disability Network Group Co-Chair for my organization. I'm also a Wellbeing Champion, Inclusion Ambassador, and I'm part of the Disability Pioneer Supergroup for the NHS England. So a lot of my work is around supporting people with disability, empowering people with disability, helping people to maintain a good health and well-being routine and strategy. And I've been promoting disability awareness, especially hidden disability awareness, for a while now. So I'm someone with multiple health conditions and disability, long-term health conditions and disability myself, and neurodiverse. So that helps me to be able to reach out to many people and support them.
Thank you so much for sharing that. I was going to say, and how do you find time to rest? That's you have an incredible amount of work that you do. So, could you tell us a little bit about your story in the sense that you mentioned sort of multiple disabilities in that sense? If I was to kind of take you back, what does that look like? If you don't mind sharing.
Yes, definitely. So I do suffer from a lot of multiple health conditions and disabilities, and it is very stressful having too many health conditions and disabilities to deal with. And a lot of people, when they see me, it's, oh, you're always smiling. They don't realize when they find out my health conditions, and they think, oh, how are you still standing? So I got diagnosed initially with a balance disorder many years ago. And when I went to the physiotherapy that I was referred for, it was a shocking situation for me because I saw more elderly people. And I went to the park when I went to pick up my son, and I actually cried, feeling at my age having a disability, a disability at the age of 30. And then following that, many years followed, and I started having mental health conditions as well. I was diagnosed, and it's comorbid mental health conditions, which includes OCD, panic attacks, anxiety and depression, and many more. And that as well took me through a journey, because it started at a time that I was made homeless because the landlord wasn't paying the rent, and then we were made homeless by the bank. So it's just, that triggered a lot of my mental health conditions and some trauma from my past and childhood as well. It just, more and more things started to creep up. And I had menorrhagia, went for surgery. The third surgery, I went into an anaphylactic shock and ended up in ICU, which at the time, because my lungs collapsed. So that was another thing I had to live with, having a rib cage that is now higher on one side than the other. And the shocking thing was, my poor mom was with me at the time. It was meant to be a routine surgery, first on the list, because it was the same hospital where I worked. And they thought, yeah, you'll be gone very quickly by one. And that's just because the doctor has to see you. So that on its own was really a difficult journey for me, the realization that I could have died. And my mom said as well, you could have died. Be careful now. Just make sure you don't let anything stress you out. And then had the diagnosis for chronic fatigue syndrome, functional neurological disorder. I have fibromyalgia as well. And then this year, in my 40s, I got my diagnosis for ADHD and autism. So it is quite demanding. And part of the things I would say, it's difficult to do day to day activities, even though I'm doing a full time work and doing other things as well. So it does from time to time get on top of me. And someone said, maybe it's because of your masking that you're a different person when you're doing all those things. And I thought, "Oh, that's it, because you put yourself so much into a lot of things, and it might just be you masking in a different way." So, yeah, having all these health conditions, it does sometimes impact on my day to day life, impact on me on my work, and I have to get a lot of resources as well from Access to Work to support me through my working environment. So, yeah, I would say it's not easy, but
Goodness.
I do have that positive mindset, and I'm trying to live each day as it comes.
My goodness. I knew you were inspirational, but my goodness, that is incredibly inspiring. You and thank you so much for sharing that. You mentioned about masking. Masking is something that we hear about a lot, and we only see the I guess masking in its entirety when someone actually gets to a point where they just physically can't mask anymore, like they feel completely overwhelmed in that side of it. Do you feel that you mask more in the personal side of it, or in work side of it, or are you just sort of learning more about situations where you feel you might have been masking and not aware of it?
Yeah, for me, I didn't realize at first, until my diagnosis, and until colleagues mentioned to me, because for me, I felt it was just me. With my OCD, I just wanted to keep I like doing things. I like being busy, in my life, because yeah, don't have time to start thinking of a lot of thoughts, because with my mental health, I think a lot, and it can be exhausting sometimes. The thinking and worrying, and I'm a big worrier. That doesn't help day to day, because I worry about everything. My son goes out, I'm worried until he comes back in. I'm doing a piece of work, I'm worried until I've completed it, and then I hear it's fine. So that on its own. And then it was when I also had my diagnosis initially for my autism. I was told, because I've masked too well over the years, I didn't meet the criteria, the tick box criteria, so they can't give me that diagnosis. I was quite disappointed. And I said, it doesn't help. And I hear from a lot of women, having done a lot of research, that a lot of women in their 40s, especially, have that issue of getting their diagnosis for autism, because they've maxed so well. They've looked at, and mine was that I've looked up to my son so well, and he's a very lovely young man. And I thought, yeah, that is a good thing. How is that now looking like a bad thing? And I think from there, I had to get my mom as well to fit into it, because a parent that knows me from childhood, and that changed the diagnosis. And one of the things I would say to people as well is, it's good to have that history your childhood history, it does help to get the diagnosis. And looking at work as well, I noticed a lot of things that I do at work. I start realizing I haven't been masking a lot because I try and push into things. I'm a complete introvert, but people won't believe that because I do public speaking now. I go to different events and I present to the board. I've presented to the group executive board. I've presented to hospital executive board and the likes as well. And I presented to different other organizations. So it was later realizing it was me masking, trying to be someone else when I'm doing those things. Normally, I like to be in my house, sitting down, watching the TV with a cup of hot chocolate. That's my normal, normal way of life.
Really interesting actually, because a lot of the people that I know are on kind of, they speak about neurodiversity and being neurodiverse and these things are introverts in themselves. But do you think that because you have such a wealth of lived experience and such a message that kind of pushes you out of that kind of comfort zone to want to be able to share this, and that's why you do the public speaking side of it?
Definitely. I think for me, especially after the ICU event, that changed a lot of things for me. After that, I thought to myself, I'm just a hard worker. I've been, accomplishing a lot within my career, although always having that difficulty in getting promotion because of my disability, my race, and being a female as well, black female. That makes it quite difficult over the years. I had to walk through my career progression by myself. And it's always interesting hearing other people say they got support. And I thought, I'm not getting any. But so it was working so hard and then realizing I need to change things. Especially, I want to share my story. I want to support other people. And the first thing I did was become a site lead for my disability network. I was introduced by my mentor, actually. He just said to me, oh, the other the site lead needed support. And I said, oh, okay. He said, oh, we're just going to meet her. And then we went into the meeting with her, with the hospital executive board. And he just said to me, Adeshola will help you. So, oh, we don't arrange it, we didn't discuss it before. But it was a good thing. And I really do appreciate it. And I thank him for it. Because that helped me to start meeting other people with disability and be able to share my journey with them. And that gave me the opportunity as well to start presenting to different other people. And when the co-chairs at the time were leaving, they came to me and said, you're doing a lot of things trying to change, disability awareness. I started putting posters in different departments, hidden disability posters. I was doing a lot to promote disability, especially hidden disability. And they asked me, please apply for the co-chair, and I did. And I'm now, I've been the co-chair for over a year now. And that's given me more opportunity as well to help people because I learned about other people, what they're going through, and I thought, okay, we need a change. That impacted me to see, okay, where else can I help? And that led me to start my business as well on a side, which is a startup business, which is called Ultimate Royal, as a public speaker. Although at the moment I'm doing a lot of voluntary speaking, and I do enjoy, other people hearing my experience and being able to gain something from it as well to improve their lives and the lives of others. For me, what I say is it's important to make impact in the lives of others, and that's always my motto.
From our sponsors, Promova are a one-stop solution for all of your language learning needs. Now, we all know how difficult and challenging it can be to learn a new language, especially if you have dyslexia. Now, this is where they're different because they are the first platform to introduce a dyslexia mode. And I've got to tell you from firsthand experience, this has been an absolute game changer for me because I've tried to learn languages for many, many years before in different ways. But the fact that they are now making it available and to assist me in certain ways, I can work through these modules with ease. It has been an absolute game changer. Please do check them out. They are used by over 15 million people across the globe. So they are doing incredible work. There is a 50% discount on the premium version in the link below. Please do click on the link and start your learning language journey.
Picture this: mastering a new language in just 10 minutes a day. Too good to be true? With Promova, it's a reality. We are a one-stop solution for all your language learning needs. This innovative platform has all the tools to create a unique learning plan based on your goals and interests. With Promova, you can learn languages through bite-sized lessons, anywhere, anytime. Learn vocabulary you'll actually use in real life. Polish your speaking skills and train your ear with audio lessons. Dive into books for full immersion. Need some personalized guidance? Our expert tutors are just one click away, whether you prefer one-on-one or group lessons.
When we talk about your journey, and we talk about the inspiration that you have, and I know that you mentioned that you struggle with kind of the fatigue side of it, and sometimes the motivation side of it. How do you keep yourself so driven to keep on achieving what it is that you achieve?
So what helps me is I think of the end result for me is impacting people's lives positively. It gives me that joy and that excitement to think of, how can I support other people? How can I help other people to feel empowered, to have a voice? And that's one of my motivating factor. And I feel that, sharing my story will enable other people to see that, no matter what their disability, no matter how difficult, challenging things might be for them, there can always be a positive light at the end of it all. And not to give up. For me, it's encouraging people not to give up, because as someone said to me before, after hearing my story, they said, if other people are in my situation, knowing all the things that I've gone through, they probably would have given up on life, or they'll be bedridden. But I said to myself, no, I can't afford to be there. One, I have a son to look after, although he's 21 now. And I said to myself as well, the journey is about connecting with as many people. And I said, I want to eventually go global in supporting many people around the world, because we have people with disability around the world that are feeling that, stigmatized, feeling that they've been discriminated against. And what I want to do is to be able to help them, as many people as I can, to change that, to change perception, to transform how people view disability, to transform how people with disability view themselves as well. So that's the plan for me, and I hope to be able to help as many people as possible.
Truly wonderful, absolutely wonderful, and what a mission, what a giant mission, but one that will really kind of cherish and help as many people. What was when you mentioned about you got a kind of a later diagnosis? I got late diagnosis at the age of 36 with dyslexia, and then a few years later ADHD. So I know what it feels like to know, I guess, those time periods beforehand of what my dyslexia was, and not knowing that I had it, and then obviously I'm still learning about it now. What was that kind of moment like for you when they mentioned when you got your diagnosis? Did things change? Was it quite a shock? Was it a relief, or was it what was that kind of what did that look like?
So when I got my diagnosis, for me, for the ADHD, it wasn't too bad. I think with the ADHD, what I felt was, oh, good to finally have a diagnosis. And the reason why was because a colleague of mine said to me, do you know, I think you've got ADHD. I said, I'm not so sure. And then he started asking me some questions, and like everything was yes, tick box. And I thought, oh, okay. I started researching ADHD as well, and going into different ADHD groups online. And that helped me to already know that, yes, I do have ADHD. Following that, I think the autism was the difficult one for me, as much as the diagnosis was as a result of access to work. When I had my access to work assessment, the assessor said to me, I think you should have a referral for autism, for ASD. And so I had to go to my GP. Initially, my GP said, oh, I asked for the diagnosis. I said, no, it was because access to work asked me to go. I didn't know that anymore. Asked me to go to my GP for the referral. So that, although I knew that, okay, I might have autism, But because of the journey, and then initially being told, oh, I don't meet the criteria, and then finally being diagnosed about a couple of months later, for me, I think that it was difficult to come to terms with my autism. And I'm still coming to terms with my autism because my diagnosis was just a couple of months ago. And trying to understand, how my autism has impacted on my life all this while that I didn't know even from my childhood, the way I behave, the things I do. And it started making sense, knowing that, yeah, that's true. This makes sense. I used to be so quiet as a child. I like collecting certain things as a child. And it just started making more sense. And even my ADHD as well, started realizing I'm so hyper-focused. And sometimes when I'm doing something, it's difficult to go. And sometimes even at work, I find it difficult to remember to have lunch. And sometimes it's 4 or 5 hours I'm sitting and doing all the work because I'm so hyper-focused on what I'm doing. So it's just realizing what that makes you, because then it makes me understand that, I am someone with ADHD and autism, and I'm not ashamed of it. I'm even more empowered knowing that now, and just finding ways to help me manage my autism and ADHD.
You mentioned about the hyper focus. I can definitely relate to that side of it, of thinking, oh my goodness, it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon and I've just had a couple of cups of coffee and that's pretty it, which is not. So do you set yourself kind of routines? Or I mean, the hyper focus I find sometimes just clicks in. And I think I remember describing hyperfocus to someone, and they said, "Oh my goodness, that's amazing that you could just have a task and just hyperfocus on it." And I'd say, no, it doesn't always work like this. You can't just go, "I'm going to hyperfocus on this one task." Sometimes you start hyperfocusing on something, and again, just from my experience, and you don't realize you're hyperfocusing on it because you're hyperfocusing on it. Do you find that with yourself?
That's true. I prefer for cousin things, and then sometimes it might be my mom when she travels over that reminds me, or sometimes it could be my son. But at work, of course, I don't have many people to remind me, so sometimes I don't realize until I just look at I look at the time and I think, oh goodness me, I've been doing this for so long. Another area that I'm hyper focused on is when I start, because of my chronic fatigue, I don't have the energy all the time to do things. I've not cooked in 3 months now, probably cooked once or twice in 3 months, or four, no, going 5 months, because of my chronic fatigue. So that doesn't really help. But when I start doing things like cleaning, I could clean at 12, 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning when other people are sleeping, and then I'm sort of hyper focused until I finish. My phone can be ringing and I'm going to ignore it until I finish what I'm doing. And sometimes until I finish, I won't do anything else, and I won't go to bed. I'll make sure I complete the task. And that's where it can get exhausting, because by the time I finish, I realize, I've been quite busy and knackered, and then need to go to bed.
I think that's. I definitely hyper focus. I can't say I've cleaned it 2 o'clock in the morning. Probably like I think my earliest is 6, 7 a.m. But we did have a cleaning business back in the days. That's why. But it's difficult, isn't it, trying to explain this to some people, because I sometimes talk about the hyper focus side of it, but with my ADHD, I will have. I mean, I'm looking at my screen now, and I must have 30 plus tabs open, and I closed about 30 of them before we came on and done this talk, because I thought, make this so it wouldn't interact in things. And then I start a task, and then I'll grab my phone, or I'll grab something else, and I'll write something down, or I'll go out and do this, and I can have possibly 9 or 10 things going on while doing one thing. So I'm explaining this to someone, and then I then say, well, actually, I can just hyper focus on one thing. And it's that, I think that's the tricky bit, isn't it? People trying to understand you best, when actually on one side you can hyper focus on one task, and then another time for me, I could be doing 10 or 11 things, not all great, by the way, but that side of it. And I think that can be a little bit difficult, can't it, sometimes?
Definitely, I agree, because sometimes when you're hyper focused on things, and it doesn't mean just one thing, as you said. Sometimes it can be having a lot of things that we're hyper focused on, and sometimes I could be doing multiple things, like yourself as well. I have multiple tabs open on my phone, even on my computer. At work, I always have so many things open. Sometimes I'm juggling between things, and sometimes with ADHD, if you start a task, you can then get tired of it and then give up on it halfway. So that's another thing we have to deal with when we're doing something. And sometimes I find myself having so many incomplete emails. I start an email and I don't finish it, and then I start another one, and then I send that one, and I realize, oh, so even on my, my inbox now, I do have draft emails of 108. I don't know how that's happened, but it's just one of those ADHD things. It just, it's so many things we're trying to do at once as well, and we can't do them perfectly because we're trying to do so many things at once. We're trying to respond to different people, trying to send multiple emails at once. Sometimes I can have several emails that I'm going to send all at once as well on my screen. So yeah,
I,
that is ADHD for you.
it is, and I always find emails still quite and I can't I can't no I'm trying to think of the terminology now. I can't historic. I'll just use the word historic. It's quite a historic way of communicating, I feel. I mean, emails are brilliant because they allow you to get all the information. You can put attachments and everything else. But I always find it genuinely more difficult to compose an email from a dyslexic point of view or a neurodivergent point of view, because you have to almost speak in a different voice, because when I'm WhatsApping or texting or these messaging, the message is it gives the information, but is more, I'd say, more casual in that sense. But then when we use an email, it's dear, and then it's kind regards or best wishes or sincerely, and these things, and it sometimes that can throw you because you and I think that's why it takes me longer to do an email than it does if I was doing a text, and most of the time I send voice notes anyway. But do you find that with the email side of it, I don't know, we tend to speak a little bit differently?
Yeah, that is extremely true, because in terms of emails, we're not very good, especially, neurodiverse, we're not very good with composition. I know there are different, neurodiversity and neurodivergence, and everyone works differently. But I notice a lot of us, we find it difficult to compose. And one of the things that I've just gotten from my from Access to Work and my organization is a software called Dragon software to help with composing and English. And then someone suggested, initially my ADHD coach as well suggested something called Goblin Tool, which is another piece of work that helps. And I use that a lot because sometimes I start writing my email and I think, yeah, it makes sense. And people just don't understand what I've just written. And they have to come back to me, oh, I don't understand your email. And if sometimes when I'm talking, people are saying they don't understand, I feel, no, I'm not stupid. I understood what I wrote in that email. And then I put it on now in the Goblin tool, and it's just changes it and drafts it properly for me, but I put my words and then it drafts it in a way that people can understand, and I send that, and that's been good so far. So yeah, it's one of those things we struggle with, composition. And someone said to me, you should write a book. And I said, yeah, composition is going to be hard. I have ADHD, so I don't think I can actually compose. I said, oh, no, we do it for you. So I'll think about that.
No, I think definitely a book on your story and your journey, I think is should be a part of everything else that you're doing. But I completely understand that there's a book, writing a book sounds incredible, and it's been mentioned to me quite a few times as well, and it's something I will do one day. But sometimes putting emails together can be a struggle, because what I tend to do with emails is I tend to write as I talk. So the way that I talk is the way that I would write an email. So, and that's not grammatically correct sometimes. So someone would be reading it as if they're reading a book or something else like this. And I tend to write so much because I'm second guessing everything I said or what they're going to think when they receive the email. So my emails are so long. And because I'd say 70% of my emails go out to neurodivergent people, they don't get read because no one is going to sit down and read an email, this big. So yeah, that's just my little bugbear with with the email side of it.
It is, and you're very right, because we try to explain things. I think it gets to a point because we feel people might not understand. So the way we think and the way we try when we're talking as well, sometimes we want to explain everything. every bit of information. So we end up writing an email as well, trying to explain so many things, and people just look at it and think, oh, are they telling me a story
Do you,
out of an email?
but then in the reverse, when I receive an email and it's very short, as in, I'm just going to give you the information. This is the information, and and that's it. And it's like a couple of paragraphs. I almost think to myself, "Oh my goodness, did I do something wrong?" Because I put so much emotion into my emails. When I receive an email with the information on, and it's perfectly great because it's literally, this is the information I need to give you. It's got, it's not a bad email. It's still got the niceties, like dear and all the other bits and pieces. But it's just that I read this and I'm reading so much into it. I'm thinking, is there, if they, said have a lovely day, if they asked about my dog, what all these different things, and I think that's what you mentioned before about the overthinking, and really it can be quite exhausting at overanalyzing everything.
Yeah, but we tend to overanalyze things, and that's one of the, it is difficult for us because for everything we overanalyze, and if someone comes back to us and send us like a couple of paragraphs, we think, yeah, definitely, we start thinking, okay, what's the tone there? What is that email? Did I, as you said, did I do something wrong, or is there? How come they're not giving me back as much as I've just given them? And one of the things that helped as well, because for us sometimes it can be difficult, especially with my autism, to judge people's, what they mean, because sometimes people can send an email to me and I'm not really sure what they mean. And as I said, the goblin tool is another area that can help you to judge an email. Kind of, you can put it there for it to say, what's the tone of this email? What does this really mean? And it does help me to look in and think, oh, okay, is that? Sometimes I feel, yeah, still, I'm not too sure about that section, but at least it helps me to understand the email a bit better, which is good for us to know what people really mean.
Absolutely. And I think it's incredible that you've been able to find these tools to be able to help, because otherwise it's very difficult to do your job and get by in life really without certain things to be able to assist. And it's amazing that you've been able to find certain tools. And I'm sure as we evolve with with AI and all the other bits and pieces, I'm sure there'll be even more tools available. Can I take you back? What was, because you're a very educated lady and you've done incredible work, which I take my hat off to you. Incredibly inspirational. What was school like for yourself? Have you always been in your head thinking academic in that sense? Have you always enjoyed learning? What was school like?
Well, for my primary school, to start with, I was quiet. I didn't join the children play as such. I wasn't that child. I like reading. I still like reading, but now I can't concentrate more because my mind tends to drift away a lot. And I read the same paragraph 4 or 5 times and then give up. But in secondary school, I went to a boarding school. I wasn't happy being someone that was so introverted. And as soon as I came to the school and I saw the seniors were going to the children that had a lot of stuff and nobody came to me, so I already felt abandoned. So that was a journey managing the 6 years in a boarding school. Eventually, I learned to hide away from doing things because I get punished for something I didn't do because I don't offend people, but just stay in my own space, and then everybody gets punished, and then I start running away from the punishment as soon as the officers, because it's a military boarding school as well, if I mention. So it was a military boarding school. It wasn't the easiest. You have to do just about everything yourself. So I struggled with that, and I just watched other people as usual play. I didn't join other people in playing, as children do. I just tend to read books, and that's what I always did. So living through education-wise, I think in my primary school, I was able to do in my year 5, do the year 6 entrance examination. And I passed it in year 5, so I ended up not doing year 6. All my siblings did. I have 4 siblings, and I'm the first of 5 of us. So we all skipped a year in our primary school. In secondary school, I think I didn't feel I did as well. I didn't feel, education-wise, because I wasn't happy in the environment, and I think that impacted as well on my performance education wise. But in university, I think things started changing, and I was doing much better with my academics. I went to London Metropolitan University in Holloway, here in London. And it was, thrilling doing there, but unfortunately, because of being naive, I got pregnant when I was in university, and that changed things for me because I became a single mother, and then having to study with a baby was very difficult. But again, the year that I did so well. After a year, I was told, unfortunately, because I didn't take time off, I have to lose those. And that was really painful because that would have helped me. So eventually, I finished my education and my parents came for my graduation. So I was happy with that, the fact that a lot of my family members just left school, once they get pregnant or something happens in their lives. And my parents were really proud that I was able to complete my Biomedical Science degree. And that really, for me, was a big step. That even as a single mom, abandoned by my partner, I was able to still complete my education. So yeah, I'm proud to I'm proud of that aspect of my life.
You should be very proud, and that tenacity to keep on going. It seems to have just completely run throughout your entire life on everything that you've done, from kind of the personal to kind of the educational, from the health side of it. So that there really is a lot of fire in you to want to progress, and I feel that it really adds to what it is that your global mission is, to be able to do that. You mentioned that you've worked in the NHS for, is it 15 years?
16 years, yeah.
16 years, so 16 years. What's your kind of experience of being like? I mean, it's been amazing that you've been able to go and do all these different projects. Have you seen from the neurodiverse point of view that it's changed over the years to be able to kind of support more within your role?
I think it definitely has changed. I started my role over 16 years ago as a clerical clerical assistant and clerical receptionist, and then had to work my way through to where I am now as a project manager. And I feel that now with my neurodiverse condition, many things that are changing, and now I needed more support, more tools to be able to manage my my neurodivergent, and it just made a change because I realized that my memory started getting really bad, concentration as well. I was having difficulty with reading and writing, so I needed a software to help me with that. So I had to get the full Microsoft Read and Write software in my organization through our ICT. And after that as well, through Access to Work, I was able to have that access to the Dragon software, which I mentioned earlier. It just meant I needed more support. One of the other things that the Access to Work assessor said to me is, you need something called Brain in Hand. I don't know if a lot of people have heard of it. It's a Brain in Hand software as well, which helps you to manage your, for people that are neurodivergent like myself, and for people with mental health conditions, and it's to help them to manage their diary, to help as well to manage in terms of if you're feeling overwhelmed, if you're feeling low, if you're having anxiety, you can think of things that you can do, and it can suggest things for you as well. And you can think it could be as simple as go for a walk, but sometimes when we're so overwhelmed, we don't think of those simple things, but it helps you. And also if you get extremely overwhelmed, there's a red, yellow, amber kind of alert as well. If you press amber 3 times in a day, it will officially notify the people, and someone will contact you. They have some support as well that will contact you to speak to you and see how you're doing and help you to think of things that you can do to help you manage that situation. And I found that really useful, and I've been privileged as well to be part of some of their the webinars they've done, and also support them with their research, and also been able to speak about my experience as well with them. So that's been amazing.
That's incredible. That's an incredible support tool to have. because we talk about mental health and mental well-being, and it's been something that's I guess has really kind of been pushed out to the forefront, especially I guess over the past sort of 4 to 5 years, to really, and probably a little bit longer, but really kind of help enhance. Well, and I guess with people who mask, I've masked in the past, and you've mentioned about masking as well, and understanding. Sometimes we can never really fully understand how someone is feeling. It's like that phrase when someone says, "How you doing?" or "Are you okay?" and they just say yes, but really it's almost, they say ask twice, like, "How are you doing?" and then suddenly they it'd be amazing if they open up a little bit more and start talking. What's your kind of view? What does mental health look like, for yourself in your experience of maybe seeing others, struggling with it as well, or some of the things that you've done? What does mental health look like to you?
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's one of the videos that I didn't have the power of editing, but that was one of the videos on my LinkedIn post about what does mental health look like to you. And I feel that a lot of people look at mental health as someone that that looks depressed, but it's not always the case. Sometimes it could be someone with a smile, but you can see from their smile sometimes they're really going through a lot, they're suffering. Is kind of, again, as you said, when you ask someone how they're doing, don't ask once. Sometimes don't ask twice as well. You could ask 3 times, because if you ask the second time, they might still feel reluctant to tell you until you again, are you sure you're okay? Just wanted to see, is there anything I can do to support you? And that helps a lot, because for me, with having comorbid mental health conditions, it can be very overwhelming sometimes, and sometimes it might be difficult for people to know that, because I'm always smiling. People always say to me, "You're always smiling." So, as much as I go through a lot of things, people don't necessarily know. And it took me about 5 years after being diagnosed with my multiple mental health conditions to tell my family as well. And a lot of people find it difficult to tell friends and family, but it's knowing the people care, knowing the people ask how you doing regularly, knowing the people are there to support you or to do those simple, nice things for you, can help you to manage that, not going to the point that your mental health gets worse. So mental health looks to me like someone can look perfectly okay, can be smiling, but they necessarily might not, internally, they might not be okay. So it's for us to be able to identify or see the way they're behaving as well. Sometimes see if they lose concentration, or if you're speaking to them and they don't answer immediately, their mind might be drifting away because they have a lot of things going on in their heads. Sometimes as well, are they making a lot of mistakes? Those are the things that you email them, they're not responding for a while, and then you try and reach them, and just a quick email or there's some signs you can use to tell if people are going through a difficult time. So it might not be, severe mental health, but at the start, if you help them and support them, then that can help them to make sure they manage their mental health and get the right support and resources they need as well.
Absolutely, and you're so right on those sides of it, and sometimes it can be as as little as having those initial conversations. I've seen in the past people, we're in a society now where we're completely inundated with so many different distractions. Our phones are not our phones anymore. They're mini computers which create so much noise and everything else, and home life and work life. And to try and find that balance in now is more challenging than ever. So it is important to have that space to be able to to take a breath and think, actually, this is where I need to be. Have you learned to to be? You mentioned about your kind of routines and the support side of it. Have you learned to be kinder to yourself, to give yourself more? To give yourself more praise for the incredible things that you that you've done and that you're doing, but secondly, kinder to yourself in the sense that to support your mental well-being as well.
It is a difficult one, because with my mental health, I always feel like I'm not doing enough. And I still feel for myself, I still say to myself, when young people say you're doing a lot, you're doing things, I find it difficult to accept that because I still feel, yeah, I can do more. Am I doing well enough? Are they just saying it just to make me feel better? So I'm working on that aspect. In terms of, helping myself and supporting my mental health, yes, I'm getting the treatment, with clinicians to help me manage my mental health. I'm on antidepressant as well. I've been on different antidepressant for, I would say, over 10 years now, because it gets to a point it's not working and then I have to change. Probably tried about 8 different antidepressants by now. So that's one of the ways I'm trying to manage that. Also, I did have counseling, and I feel for people, sometimes they don't want to go into counseling because they're worried about how, they will be perceived, or they still have that stigma about, getting that or talking about mental health. But I would say it is good to talk about your mental health. People are there to support you. Don't feel that you'll be a burden to other people or pain to other people. Definitely not. They would really love to support. And I do encourage people to talk about their mental health, to seek help as well. And it could be little things, especially now they have social prescribers, which is great. They can help people as well to think of different activities that you can do in your local community. So I would say, for me, with my chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, it does limit me because with my fibromyalgia, I have to go in every 3 months or every 2 months to have my infusion for the pain, to manage the pain. So not the easiest. So I can't do too many activities. I had to stop exercising as well, so which doesn't help. But I would say I found little things, especially sit down with my son in the evening, maybe watch TV together or have a chat together. Those are things that I do. And in terms now, I decided to do something different. My childhood dream was to be a doctor. Well, I'm not a doctor now, but that's why I went through the line of biomedical science. But having a child and having, it changed that. But I had a lot of doctors that were happy to support me at the time. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. The other thing I wanted to do was to be a fashion model. And this year, I started the career as a fashion model. So excited about that as much as with everything else I'm doing. But I enjoy that. And I think I love the camera and the camera loves me. That's what I've come to realize. And the photographers love me as well. And I think, so I'm doing the right thing, something I really love. So that for me is a way as well to manage my mental health because I love modeling. And I'm going to one of the pageant on the 21st, which I'm excited about. And it's Miss Pageant Queen UK. So I'm representing London Classic. Excited about that as well. So that's me with my mental health. Just like sometimes just sit in front of the TV, watch Netflix, and just laugh. I like watching things that are funny, so I just laugh, and that helps me to manage my mental health.